In Onshape, I'm going to work on a part drawing that I found on Reddit. This is apparently for one of the SolidWorks exams or practice exams. And when you take a look at this drawing, it looks fairly straightforward. When you get into it though, it looks like, hey, maybe are there some dimensions missing? But there are some assumptions that you have to make when you are sketching and putting in the various different constraints. So let's go about doing this. I'm going to start with the big extruded cylinder down at the bottom. I'm going to select the plane called right. Then I will hold down the right mouse button to create a new sketch. And I will hold down the right mouse button again to view normal to the sketch plane. I find that to be easiest. Then let's sketch a couple of circles. Now, so I'll lock right into the origin, and the outside is going to be a diameter of 90. So let me eyeball close to that. And then the next one is going to have a thickness of about 20. So let me drag it out about yay big. It is in blue. Let's throw in our dimensions. So let's click on the dimension icon. I will pick the big cylinder and then left click to locate it. Punch in a value of 90. And then for the thickness, I will pick the inner circle and the outer circle. And here we have that thickness dimension. And let's see, this is supposed to be value of 20. There we go. And we can move that dimension over if we want to. This is all good. I will hit the green check mark to complete the sketch. Let me rotate the model slightly to look at it in a bit of an ISO view. Now let's extrude it. I will click on the extrude tool. Let's pick the face. I want this to be a symmetric depth, and the depth is going to be a value of 90. That is good for the first feature. I will click on the check mark. Now we're going to create a sketch, and it's going to be for the rest of the part. We're going to be able to do the other extruded cylinder and also the web or flange in the middle together. You almost kind of have to do it based on getting that all with the amount of dimensions that they give you. So let me start out by selecting the plane called front. I will right mouse click and hold and choose new sketch. And once again, I will view normal to my sketch plane. And I'm going to start out with a construction rectangle that matches the same size as this cylinder. I come over from Creo Parametric. Normally I would just add some sketch references, but this will end up doing the same job. And I know I want this to be construction, so I will click on the construction icon. Then I will sketch my rectangle. I'm going to make it a little bigger than I need to in order to start out with. That way I can just snap into the right size by using the pierce constraint. That is this one, so I will click on it. And let's pick the vertex and then pick this line, and you can see it snap in there. And let's do the same thing here. And so now everything is black. We don't have any other different dimensions. So let's see. Also, for some of the stuff that I am going to need for extruding, well, I wanted to go through this thing entirely. So I need a face in the sketch that goes through here. So I'm going to create another rectangle. I will let it lock right into here, and let's let it lock into the width. I want it to be exactly the height of this one. So once again, I will use the pierce constraint. So I will click on it, and let's select this and select that, and it locks in. Everything is black. Everything is fully constrained. And in here we have a reference dimension. Well, it's not a reference dimension. It's a dimension of 122 some construction lines. Let me go back to viewing normal to my sketch plane. So I will create a construction rectangle, and I will start it here, and then I'll just exaggerate it a little bit to begin with. And now let's add in a coincident constraint. Let's make this coincident with this. And we need that 120 dimension. So I will click on the dimension tool and let's dimension from here down to the bottom and change that to a value of 120. So there are our first different rectangles. And now I'm going to jump up and do the circles up at the top. And let's unclutter the screen. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut P to turn off the plane display. That makes it a little easier to read. And so we need two circles located about up here in space. Let's do that. Let's create a center point circle. And we will do for, let's see, there's going to be a smaller circle of a diameter 45. So let me drag it out about yay big. And then let's lock right into the center and make our bigger one. In the drawing, they give a radius of 30. In the drawing, when we make the drawing here in Onshape, we could put in a radius dimension, but I'm going to have to use a diameter dimension when I am in sketch mode. So let's go to dimension and let's dimension this. And again, this is going to be a value of 70. And the other one is going to be 45. So that's good, but everything is in blue because we haven't fully located. There is one dimension 30 that offsets it from the side of the extrude. Let's throw that in. Let's put in from here to here and then get a horizontal dimension and throw in a value of 30. Okay, for the next thing that I'm going to put in, let's do our two arcs with a radius of 80. And so the two arcs with a radius of 80, one of them is going to start from over here. And the center of the arc is somewhere on this line. We don't know the exact location. So let me go to the arc and I'm going to do a center point arc. Let's have the center point on, wait, it's going to be on this entity. I almost put it in the wrong place. On here, and let's see, it's going to start right at that location and make it out about yay big. And then we're going to have another one, and I'm letting it give me that dashed line indicating that it is in line with that horizontal line. And let's locate it there and have it start right there and go in, about so big. Now I'm going to throw in those radius dimensions. So let's dimension this and radius out here and punch in our value of 80. And then let's grab this one and put in a radius of 80 for it as well. And then for connecting in some tangents into here, I'm going to put in a construction line that ends up going through the center of the circle. So let's go to construction mode. Let me get out of dimension mode. Let's go to construction mode and sketch in a line. And I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit, just have it go through those two different areas. I'll use the escape key on the keyboard to get out of there. And let's go into coincident and make these coincident. And so this will help me when I'm sketching in a couple of regular lines to go from here and then into here. Now, let me see. Looks like I'm going to be able to get, let me just do it connected. Let me hit escape, go back to the line and do the same thing over on the other side. And there. Let me hit the escape key. So now we get it filled in. Let me zoom in a little bit. But again, everything is still gray at this point. And so we need to add in some more constraints. And so for example, these lines should be perpendicular to this one. So let's see if that helps us out. Perpendicular here. And let's see, this is way too skewed over. Let me throw in a tangent. I see we want this and this to be tangent. There we go. That's starting to look better. Let's go back to perpendicular here and here. Oh, everything is looking good. Everything went black. And so I thought I was going to have to throw in another parallel, but when I was sketching, I ended up getting some of the right assumptions of the constraints. If you're not sure, you might have to turn on constraints, but holy cow, this is a mess. And so this is one of the reasons why I don't like examples like this, where it's just like, you end up having to get the right combination of constraints or throwing in constraints later on. I don't know if that really tests someone's modeling ability. And so I'd rather that, they don't give you something where it's just like, oh, you have to see the trick. But anyhow, let me use the trim tool. I don't have to trim these different segments, but I am going to anyways. Just make sure I don't have a segment over there. But everything looks good in my sketch. Let's hit the check mark in order to complete out of here. And so now let's make the extruded cylinder. I will click on the extrude tool and then click here. And let's see, this is going to be a symmetric depth, and it's going to be a value of 60. So that's good. And you'll notice that this is coming up in a different color because it is not connected. It's going to end up giving us a second part. It is creating a new part. That's okay. Everything is going to connect together in a moment. So let's see, let's hit the check mark there, and the sketch went away, and I need the sketch to come back so I can make my my flange, or that web in the middle. So I will click on the extrude tool, and let me pick this as what I want to extrude. Let's change this to symmetric and a value of 20. And right now it's giving us a new solid. This would end up creating a third part, but I don't want it to create another part. Let's go add it, and let's just do merge with all for the scope. And right now it's just merging it to this thing over here, but I really want to throw in another face to merge with. So let me move my mouse over here. Let's right click, select other. And let's see, let's go with this face as well. And that way it'll end up just having a single part. Everything is going to be together. So this looks good. I will hit the check mark. And by the way, if you didn't choose that other different face, you could have selected the bottom part of the web and extruded it to this surface. You could have done it in 2 extrudes if you wanted to. But anyhow, let's hit the check mark in order to complete that. I no longer need the sketch visible. And so I need some fillets at this point. I'm going to have to create a few different fillet features. And so there is a fillet that goes all around here, but in order for it to propagate, we need some tangency. So let's throw in our first fillet. Let's go to the fillet command and pick this edge, and it's giving us a radius of 3. That's good. That is what we want. It is a standard of 3 everywhere, and we've got to do the same thing at the bottom. And while I'm at it, I might as well start throwing in the fillets for this edge and this edge as well. So that's good for my first fillet. Now that I have those fillets here, I can create another fillet. Let's pick this edge and this edge, and you'll notice that it is propagating to tangent. Let's hit the check mark. And for the last fillet, let me pick this edge here and this edge here. And so let's hit the check mark. I think that does it. I think that ends up creating the part from the drawing. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you would have done it differently. Again, it looks a little different than the one that was created in the drawing. I don't know if the one in the picture is from the student or if that was the drawing that was given to the student in order to replicate in SolidWorks. But anyhow, there's some good practice for you. Again, let me know what you think in the comments.